This is slide 14, our last one in our 60s unit, and we'll wrap up our civil rights discussion talking about Black Power. This is when things really start to kind of turn more militant. Dr. King's peaceful, nonviolent methods were working, but they were very slow to bring change. And a lot of people were tired of waiting. They had seen too much violence and we're done with peace. So things turn more militant. We'll start with Malcolm X, a very famous name. We'll talk a lot more about Malcolm X in class, but just know that he is a fascinating figure. He comes to power, or really, let's back up a second. He goes to prison as a young man for gambling, for racketeering, for gang violence, you name it, any number of things. But while in prison, he is exposed to the Islamic faith, right? Muslim. He converts and becomes a Muslim while in prison. He is exposed to what is called the Nation of Islam. It's the Islamic faith in the United States, and particularly for black men and women, right? The Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam preaches a complete separation from the white race. They don't want integration. They don't want to work together. They want a complete separation from whites. They don't want whites' help. Okay? And their slogan, by any means necessary, okay, means that if it takes violence to achieve our goals, we will use violence. Okay? Malcolm X will quickly rise within the ranks of the Nation of Islam until he is second in power to the leader, the founder, a man named Elijah Muhammad. Okay? And Malcolm X, his real name before he converts is Malcolm Little. He changes it when he converts to Islam to Malcolm X, X meaning the unknown name. Little, he would argue, Little is not his real last name. That is the last name that was given to him by the slave master who took his family from Africa. So X represents the unknown, that unknown last name. Okay? Malcolm X, during his time in the Nation of Islam, will fulfill a requirement of all Islamic people to make a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. Mecca is in Saudi Arabia. Right? When he goes to Mecca, he experiences this sort of transformation. While in Mecca, he sees not just black Muslims, but Muslims from all over the world, different races, different nationalities, different colors. He sees them all, including whites, he sees them all interacting and existing peacefully together. When he comes back to the United States, he comes back preaching a very different message, a message of inclusion. He says we need to be working with white people. And because he's so popular in the Nation of Islam, a lot of people start to agree with him. Okay? It is for that reason, in February 1965, Malcolm X, forgot to highlight Mecca there. In February 1965, Malcolm X was giving a speech in New York when he was shot and killed by rival Nation of Islam members. These are people that believed he was taking too much attention away from Elijah Muhammad and what they believed the real message of Nation of Islam should be. So Malcolm X is a fascinating guy. Here you see his picture. There's Malcolm X right there with Muhammad Ali, oddly enough. And they're the Malcolm X by any means necessary. Fascinating story. We'll talk some more about him in class. Dr. King, Martin Luther King, will be assassinated. The founder of peaceful nonviolence will meet a very violent end when he is shot and killed by a white supremacist named James Earl Ray. Dr. King was in Memphis, okay, in April 1968 when he was at this hotel here. He stepped out on the balcony outside the door of his hotel room when he was shot and killed by Ray, who was in a building on the other side of the parking lot. There you see all of Dr. King's closest advisors pointing to where the shot came from. Ray will always claim that he was framed. He didn't do this. He did that other people were involved. There's never been any evidence to that. As far as we know, Ray was the only shooter and the only one involved. Okay, but Dr. King, April 1968, shot and killed in Memphis. Okay. Let's talk about the Black Panthers, officially the Black Panther Party, okay, founded by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. Right? Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. Sorry, just noticed that should be a capital N there. Newton and Seale will found the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California, 1967. There you see Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, okay, in front of their headquarters. They take advantage of a crazy California law that allows you to carry guns open on your person on the streets of Oakland. And not just a handgun. You can carry semi-automatic weapons hanging over your shoulder while walking down the street. Okay? The Black Panther Party targeted white urban police officers. So white City of Oakland police officers as their enemy. White police officers were taking advantage of their authority and their power to attack and beat black Oakland citizens. So the Black Panthers start doing something about it. They arm their members and they start stationing them on corners, busy street corners. Because what would happen is police officers would pull over black drivers, drag them out of their cars, and beat them senseless. The Black Panthers found that when they stood on on traffic corners, police officers were a lot less likely to pull over black drivers when Black Panthers were standing there with M16s. And it works. Okay? The slogan associated with the Black Panthers, "Off the pigs." Okay? Pigs meaning the cops, the policemen. Kill the police. If the message of the Nation of Islam is, by any means necessary, we'll use violence if we have to, the message of the Black Panthers is, we prefer violence. That's our first option. Okay? The Black Panthers will accomplish a lot, and they'll spread to other cities. However, eventually their effectiveness will kind of wear off as some of the leaders will be arrested and sent to prison for a long time for murder. But the Black Panthers kind of get a bad rap here, no pun intended, a bad name. What I've talked about, the violence and the guns and all of that, is just a small part of what they do. Their bigger mission is as a social group. The Black Panthers will run before and after school programs for black children. They'll feed them meals. They get them breakfast. They feed them dinner. They run medical clinics for the black community in Oakland to get free medical care for black citizens who can't afford it. They do a lot of good civic work for the black community. The problem is it just gets drowned out in the message of all their violence. Okay? Lastly, let's talk about Tommie Smith and John Carlos. These are two U.S. track stars who win medals as sprinters in the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City. Here you see a famous picture when they are on the medal stand, they get their medals and the national anthem is playing. They each put on a black glove and raise a closed fist to the sky. This will come to be known as the Black Power symbol, this closed fist. They get in a lot of trouble for this. The Olympics are supposed to be, kind of that one place where no matter your politics, your race, your religion, whatever, the world can come together and compete. They bring politics into the Olympic Games. And the Olympic Committee will strip them of their medals, and the United States Olympic Committee will ban them from any future competition. But they don't really care. Their message got across. Their message got out that blacks have power and they should use it. Okay? So that'll wrap up our civil rights discussion as part of the 1960s.